Hey there friends, welcome to my channel and to today's video. So today what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be going through my collection and I am going to go brand by brand and I'm going to tell you my least favorite eyeshadow palette from that brand and my most favorite eyeshadow palette from that brand. As you guys well know, I love eyeshadow palettes a lot. I mean a lot. I did recently do a declutter. If you guys want to see that declutter, then please go down into the description box. The link will be there, or it'll be up in the cards if you want to see my declutter. But I have a lot of palettes here, and we're going to go through each brand one by one. Okay, so hi, welcome if you're new. My name is Amy. This is Dolly Mama Beauty. On this channel, I love to talk about eyeshadow palettes. That's my favorite thing about makeup, but I love makeup in general. I really also enjoy blush, and I enjoy mini sets, and I enjoy the holidays and the sales that are coming up, because you know I'm a sale girly, and if I can save money on makeup anywhere, I will do that, and that's usually when I do shopping for my makeup. So I'm excited about Black Friday coming up. I'm excited about the holidays coming up, and yeah, so we are diving into what I'm calling the best of and the worst of palettes for each brand. So I hope you guys will be interested in seeing what I have to say about this video in this video, and please make sure you like this video and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Do all three at once. That way you're informed of when I post future videos, and we are going to get started, okay? And make sure also, if you wouldn't mind, please watch this video all the way through. It helps with my watch time. If you have the opportunity to watch all the way through now, great. If not, save it for later and you can watch it, you can listen. You don't actually need to watch the video, because most of you, if you're eyeshadow palette enthusiasts such as myself, you're going to know the palettes I'm talking about and you won't necessarily need to actually watch it, if you will. So I'm super excited to share these with you guys today. So let's get started. Okay, so first things first, I went through my eyeshadow palette collection and I picked out brands in my collection that I have 5 palettes or more from that brand. So that had to be the criteria. So I had to have at least 5 palettes from these brands in order to have a best and a worst. Some people do 3. I don't think that's enough to determine best and worst, because you really don't have as much to choose from. So I wanted to make sure that I had 5 of each brand. And so I had more brands than I thought. I initially was thinking, oh, I'm gonna have like 3 or 4 brands. This is gonna be a quick video. But I think I have like 11 or 12 brands here. So I'm excited about this, and we're gonna dive in. Now, I'm pretty sure other people have done this style of video. I don't know if this is a new idea, but I'm sure somebody else has done it. If I find something similar to this, I will link that person's video down in the description box, because I really don't know. Like, I have a lot of friends that do eyeshadow palette content, and I'm sure somebody else has thought of this before me, but I do not know. And I haven't seen any other videos like this recently. So we're gonna dive right in. So lots of brands. Now, a lot of these palettes are discontinued. A lot of them are no longer available, but they're obviously in my collection for a reason. I adore and use them. And so we are talking about a lot of palettes that are no longer available. So there's not going to be a lot of things linked in the description box, you guys, just simply because most of these palettes are not available. So we're going to get started. First brand I want to talk about is Juvia's Place, because that's the palette, my favorite palette. We're going to start with least favorite and we're going to go to favorite. Okay, so my least favorite palette from Juvia's Place is actually the Culture palette. Now, I like this palette, but I don't love it. And I think that the main reason is because half the shadows in here really are not my favorite. And some of the formulas in here, like some of the shimmer formulas in here, I really am not a fan of. But overall, I mean, I use some of these eyeshadows in here as blush. So I keep this around just because I love it for that reason. I mean, I did a whole series based on eyeshadows I use as blush, and I have a lot of Juvia's Place eyeshadows in this palette that I use as blush. But it's just a very odd palette. It's large. I'm not the biggest fan of Juvia's Place anymore. I have decluttered a lot of Juvia's Place recently in the last couple of years, just simply because they're a brand that is just not doing anything new, in my personal opinion, and they got away from what made them special, and they haven't improved their formula. I think about Colored Rain, and they're going out of business. I wonder if Juvia's Place is getting close, because they are in Ulta, so fingers crossed they won't go anywhere, but they're just not as exciting as they used to be. So that's my least favorite palette from Juvia's Place. my favorite palette from Juvia's Place, and I toggled back and forth between this one and the Blush Rose, but ultimately the Nomad palette from Juvia's Place, and this is what I have in my eyes right now, is my absolute favorite Juvia's Place palette. And this one is so good. This one was, I think, in my personal opinion, the last great palette that they did, with the exception of the Blush Rose and the Bronze Rustic. Those are my two other favorites. Those three Juvia's Place palettes are my absolute favorite Juvia's Place palettes of all time. So, followed closely by the Tribe. But this one, I love. Now, there are a few things in here I wish were different, but all in all, I just love the tones of this. I love the grunchiness of this. I love the autumn slash harvest vibe. I was thinking about doing harvest palettes because, you know, it's harvest season, and nobody ever talks about Thanksgiving. We just jump straight from Halloween to Christmas, but I love Thanksgiving. So this is a very Thanksgiving-y-ish palette, and I adore it, and this is my favorite from Juvia's Place. All right, we're gonna go on to Anastasia Beverly Hills. Okay, now Anastasia is not a brand I'm super excited about these days so much. In the past, when I first got into makeup, they were all the rage, and I love their 14 pan palettes. My 14 pan palettes were always my favorite, and they have some newer palettes that I'm interested in, namely the Nouveau, and I have the Cosmos back here, which I really, really enjoy. I almost made the Cosmos my #1 favorite palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, but ultimately I had to go with my most favorite. So my least favorite palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills is actually the Norvina palette. I don't use my ABH palettes very often, but when I do, this one for some reason seems to be the one I reach for the least. And I don't understand why, because I love purple and pink, soft pinks like this, like ballet slipper pinks, mauve pinks. Those are my favorite kind of pinks, like bright pinks I'm not a fan of. But like these really rich purples, and I mean, even this this deep brown here, and this kind of like muddy chocolate, kind of reddish chocolate down here. Love it. I thought I was gonna love this shade way more than I do, and I actually hate this shade. I know it's so random, but anyway, I still have it because I really honestly think, still to this day, and even though these are old, this formula is so good and so easy. So like if you really just want easy makeup, I always go for ABH in that respect. So this is the Norvina. That's my least favorite. My most favorite, and I know a lot of people love this one. I do too. It is absolutely my favorite ABH palette of all time, and it's the Sultry palette. I wish this was still available. They made this limited edition, and then they took it away. Then they brought it back by popular demand. I mean, just bring it back and keep it. They did a truncated version of this, a smaller version of this, and I'm like, no, because it didn't have the bloom shade and it didn't have rose quartz. It just had all the browns. What makes this special is the bloom shade and the rose quartz, and mixing it with the neutrals. That's what gives this palette a little bit of an edge. I love the shimmer formula. This is when their shimmer formula got like out of control, like really, really good. Very, very soft shimmers. Like some of their other shimmers, like I think I remember Paulina when she was still doing videos, she loved the Amrezy palette and she loved that barb shade and it was really crumbly. These are super crumbly. Like their shimmers got super crumbly, and I don't really know. I don't think the shimmers are as crumbly in like the Cosmos and their newer formula and their newer palettes, but in these older palettes, the shadows, the shimmer shadows, holy shnikes, they are messy. But anyway, I love the Sultry palette, always have, always will. It will remain. And these palettes are getting old, you guys. They still work perfectly. I was watching Jessica Braun on YouTube today, on Instagram today, and she threw out her Patrick Major Dimension 1 palette because it had mold in it. I have no issues with any of my eyeshadows smelling, not performing well. I'm just glad that I wasn't interested in those Patrick Ta palettes, because I would have been mad if I had to throw away a $70 eyeshadow palette, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so these still work really well. The shadows perform great. I wash my brushes after every time I apply my eyeshadow, so I've never had eye irritation or eye infections from my eye makeup ever in my life. Just saying. So, you know, preserve your makeup, wash your brushes, keep your brushes clean. That way your shadows will last longer, and store them in a cool place as well. So That's my little PSA. Thank you very much. Now let's move on to BH Cosmetics. Now BH, still to this day, BH is one of my absolute favorite brands. Even though they kind of just like fell off the face of the earth, there are some BH palettes I have in my collection that I just love and adore. This one was a hard one for me. This one was really hard for me to pick a least favorite. The one I picked for my least favorite is no longer, well, not, a lot of these are no longer available. BH just isn't doing anything these days, or nobody's even talking about them anymore. But this is only because it's super neutral and it is more of a face palette than an eye palette. This is the Desert Oasis. This is so good. So good. If I ever needed to just keep one palette for like highlighters per se, or for a full face, and I love this thing. This is my least favorite one though. The only reason is because, like I said, it's more of a face palette than an eye palette. If you notice, you've got a lot of eyeshadows in here, and these can all be used as eyeshadows, but I got 2 bronzer shades in here. I got a deepening shade. I've got these blues, this kind of terracotta right here. You know, and it pulls neutral warm, and then I have all these shimmers. And they're so beautiful as highlighters, you guys. I'm not joking you when I say they are like probably the most intense highlighters I have. This is such a good palette, but it is my least favorite, just only because it's not really an eyeshadow palette. It is and it isn't. So like you can use all of these on your eyes, but I mean, I'm a firm believer in multi-use makeup, using your shimmers as highlighters, using your eyeshadows as blush and bronzer. Like I can use some of these eyeshadows as bronzer, not even a problem. And they actually are bigger pans. Not as big as this. I wish this was like a bronzer pan versus this being a highlighter pan. But these are all so beautiful. Like I love this palette so much. Like I said, this one was really hard for me. So the next one, if you know, you know. The avocado toast will always reign supreme for me from BH. This is my favorite palette from BH. I have a lot of BH palettes still in my collection, but this one is my absolute favorite. If you didn't know, now you do. This one is so good. Now you'll see that I have a penchant for greens with neutrals, and I have that a few times in this video. My next brand actually will shock you when I tell you what my least favorite palette is from it. But anyway, what I've always loved about this particular, I'm sorry about the silver background, this particular palette is every single tone of green is different. There is not one that dupes the other. They're all tonally different. They all have different undertones. This has 2 deep shades, a deep brown and a deep green. This is the perfect green / neutral palette in my collection, hands down. I love this like to the moon and back and around and around and around the world like infinite times. Like I can't even get over how much I love this. This is so good. Beautiful face highlight, gorgeous greens in here, gorgeous neutrals. I can do so much with this, and I have done so much with this, and I love this to this day. I will never get rid of this one, ever, ever, ever in my life. Okay, so let's move on to Ace Beaute. Now, listen, I don't know what's going on right now with Ace Beaute. They keep saying they're going to be rebranding. They've had a sale that's been going on forever. If you ever wanted anything from Ace Beaute, now is the time. I have 6 palettes from Ace Beaute, and I adore their formula. It's probably one of my favorites. I think it's super underrated, but right now people are not talking about them because they are not doing anything new. Now, when this palette came out, this palette kind of like just sold out immediately. Now, I love it. I love all my Ace Beaute palettes, but this one in particular is my least favorite for a few reasons. Now, please don't come for me. This is the Ace Beaute Tropical Vibes. Now, this is a green neutral palette. Listen, I love this. Do not get me wrong. The only reason it is my least favorite is because there is a little bit of overlap with some of the shades. Whereas I was talking about how everything is different in this one, there is differences. They're more subtle than this though. This has 3 shimmers. I wish there was like a couple more shimmers. And maybe just a little bit of a difference in the greens, but other than that, I mean, the formula is astounding. It's so good. I actually inherited the single shadows from this collection from Kayla, and I love them too. So you really didn't need to have any more shimmers because I have those as well. Now that I have them, it's a different story. I like this a lot more than I did before. I adore this. Don't get me wrong. I had to put something in the bottom in terms of this being my least favorite Ace Beaute palette, but I still love it. So please take that with a grain of salt. This is not a knock on this. I love this to death. I will not get rid of it. None of my Ace Beaute palettes. Oh my gosh, I love Ace Beaute. Please, where are you? Come back. We need you back. I'm ready. Okay. If you've been around any length of time, then you will know my #1 palette from Ace Beaute, hands down, and forever and a day, one of my absolute favorite palettes in my collection. This is the Palettopoly palette. Flew under the radar for so many people because when they first released this, it came out with a game. People didn't want the game. They didn't buy this palette. They miss out. If you didn't get it and you have a chance, oh my God, you will not be disappointed. This is one of my absolute favorite palettes in my collection. The formulas in here, both the shimmer and the matte, absolutely exceptional. Best palette they've ever done in my opinion. I love this. I live for this. This is my favorite Palettopoly. Now, they sell it without the game now. Now, honestly, like you have to go to Ace Beaute and see what's still available right now because they're trying to sell off all their stock, I think, because they're trying to rebrand. And I don't think that rebrand has happened because I have not heard about any new releases from them. So they're still trying to sell off all of their palettes, which means they're really, really affordable right now. Like they're $15 each. Please, people. If you haven't tried Ace Beaute, now is the time. Go find a color story that works for you. Just try out the brand. You'll thank me later. I love Ace Beaute and I love the Palettopoly palette. Okay, man, we gotta chug along here. Okay, now we're gonna go to probably one of my absolute favorite brands in this video. Absolute favorite brands in this video. I'm waiting for the Black Friday sale because I have a few palettes I need to acquire that I did not get yet. I know what their sale is gonna be. So there you go. Okay, Nomad. I hate to even do this, but this palette, I just don't like it. And I have never liked it, and it's always frustrated me to no end. This, my friends, is the Nomad Verona Love and Death palette. The Romeo and Juliet palette, the two-sided palette. I love the colors, but the shimmer formulas in here are so awful, like I can't even. So I love this for the mattes, and I love the color story, and I love to use these as blushes over here, and I love this over here. But literally, guys, these shimmers are unusable to me. I do not like them at all. I do not like the shimmers in this palette. That's the only reason it's here. Otherwise, I would recommend this, but I don't care for the quality of the shimmers in here. So this one is my least favorite by a mile. I even love the neutral palettes more, like the little Oslo, the Nomad Air palette, the Orient Express palette. All are above this one because I just can't. Okay, now I had a really hard time deciding what to pick as my favorite Nomad palette for this video, and still my favorite one in my collection. A newbie almost beat it out, but I couldn't let anybody take the place of the Whistler Snow Lodge palette from Nomad. This one is still my absolute favorite, namely because of how many deep shades there are in it. I looked at my Fuji 5 Lakes, which is the one that came in right behind this, and I looked at them this morning, and I just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This one has more variety than Fuji 5 Lakes. Fuji 5 Lakes is really, really cool, but it's still just not unique enough to overtake this. Here's why. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 really deep shades, and they're basically, these three are neutral. I consider the green a neutral as well. So I have a deep brown and a deep black. Oh my God, the variety and the things that you can do with this is next level. Now they do have a duochrome in here, which I believe is this one up here. It's the it's called the Powder Specialist, and they have this one down here. They're both duochromes. This was the first time she did the duochromes, I think, and they're not that good, but they do work. And this color story in general, favorite of all time. Whistler Snow Lodge still reigns supreme. Okay, we're gonna go to ColourPop next. This one pains me. This one pains me to put it last, because you guys know how I feel about this IP. Darth Vader is right here. Okay, obviously he's like my favorite Star Wars character next to Chewbacca. So it's either Chewbacca or Darth Vader. If you ask me who my favorite character is from Star Wars, it's the Darth Vader palette. It's Darth Vader. I mean, come on. I cannot, there's nothing I want more than to just love this way more than I do, but I don't care for this palette. I do love the Stormtrooper shade. That is my favorite shade to use as highlighter. That's like my favorite highlighter. This is an eyeshadow. It's a Super Shock. I don't like Super Shock eyeshadows, but put this on the face. Lord, I can't. Okay, so here is the Darth Vader palette. I decluttered the Blow and Smoke palette or Smoke Show palette, and I'm going to save it to kind of maybe elevate this a little bit and make it more Darth Vader-like. And if I can do that, then fine. If not, I have the Star Wars palette back here. Now you'll notice it's back there and it's not here on the table, so it's not my favorite. But it is one of the best palettes that ColourPop has ever done, hands down. I have enough shades in there to complement this to make a Darth Vader kind of vibe, but this is my least favorite. My most favorite, and here's the funny thing about this, I hate these movies, like, I hate them. I read the books, I'm talking about Twilight, okay? This one is so good. This one is on another level good. I cannot get over how much I love this. The combination of the silvery, like, the silvery blues, and then this pale blue up here, the shimmer selection in here, the green, this green, oh my god, it's so beautiful. The green and the purple, plus some of the neutrals thrown in, and these like, just these kind of, it's like that filter. I mean, look at the photo. You have Bella and Edward up here. I cannot stand these movies. Okay, I'm sorry. All that just can say, this one is probably one of the best palettes they've ever done. Now, I went back and forth between this, Star Wars, and Cabana Club. You guys know how I feel about that Cabana Club palette, but this one came into my life this year, and it is on another level awesome. So that's the Twilight palette. Terrible franchise, wonderful palette. Great quality. I'm not going to go on any further because I don't want to anger anybody, because I know we got a lot of Twilight fans probably that watch me. Just do not care for the franchise. Okay, we're going to Menagerie. Now, I have 5 Menagerie palettes, exactly 5. I used to have 6 and I decluttered one of them. Menagerie's formula does not last real long. I inherited this palette from Kayla and I like it, but I don't love it. And this is the Claws palette. The Paws palette is the one that's got the primary colors. This is the Claws palette. It's okay. I think I used this shimmer and I used this green once, and it's nothing to write home about. This particular color story, and this particular formula. I don't know what happened, but they changed their formula. I got the new ColourPop palette. It's okay. Not my favorite formula. The one I'm going to talk about in a minute, the formula in here is next level, over the top amazing for Menagerie. And so they're not a brand that's exciting anymore, in my personal opinion. They don't do anything. And when they do, it's rare. So this is the Claws. I know they did an Authorine palette. Oh, their blush palette. Oh god. Anyway, that's the Claws. That's my least favorite from Menagerie. My most favorite from Menagerie. Everybody, say it with me now. Indigo Ink. Oh my god. This is probably one of the most underrated palettes ever. Now, I will say, these two shades are relatively similar, but this one has a little bit of a green tint to it, and this one's just like a really, really pale blue. So they are different. You wouldn't know it. Oh my gosh, you guys, this one, the shimmers in here, the formula, rich, foiled, and thick. The mattes are powdery and pigmented, and they stain like a mofo. Like this eyeshadow stains. This is what really sold me on Menagerie. I do have a Nets palette, the Serenity palette. That's a great formula. I loved the matte formula in the Feral palette. The shimmer formula was awful. They improved the shimmer formula. They kept the same matte formula from Feral. This is the best palette ever. I love it so, so much. Okay, we're going to Fantasy Cosmetica. Fantasy Cosmetica, my least favorite palette. I have said this before, I will say it again. I am not a huge fan of the Sorcerer. I know a lot of people really, really love this one and it's a favorite for some people, but I cannot get on board with this color story. I bought it because I bought all of the 6-pan palettes at the same time because they had a huge sale and they changed the packaging. The formula is still the same, but they changed the packaging. What I cannot with this is the bright pinks and then the bright blue. Bright blue, bright pink, no thank you. That is not my jam. Beautiful, beautiful formulas, don't get me wrong. And then I just don't understand this. This is like a deep navy shimmer. It's so deep. Like, you have this purple right next to it, but if they really just wanted to just do a deep navy blue instead of this bright blue, that would have been 1,000 times better for me, and I probably would have loved this palette way more than I do. But yes, alas. The number one, still to this day, one of the best palettes ever created in my personal opinion. Curated beautifully, 9-pan color story, best 9-pan palette. Yes, in my personal opinion, best 9-pan palette ever of all time. This is Druid palette. Stop the presses. This one is so good. I can't get enough of this. Between the mauvey pinky duochromes, the browns, the greens, this yucky, dirty, greenish snot color. Oh my gosh. So good. This was the first palette. Still the best. I love the Fighter and the Rogue as well. They're very close seconds, but the Druid, in my personal opinion, is the best thing they've ever done. Now, I'm a little behind on my Fantasy Cosmetica. I do not have the Wizard palette, nor do I have the Cradled in Ice Amanda's palette or their newer palette. I just don't feel the need for Cradled in Ice because it reminds me of the Yord's Divine Jewels and Gem palette, which I have already. And then also, I don't feel the need for Amanda's palette. It's a very mid-tone palette with no differentiation in my opinion. And the 16-pan palette, I just didn't like the color story. So I just kind of held off. So now we're going to go on to Shroud. Poor little Shroud. I don't know what happened to Shroud. It's a sad, sad story. I'm still not sure what's going on with the owner of the brand. Obviously, she's not doing anything right now. She just kind of disappeared and everybody doesn't know what happened. So I hope she's okay. I inherited this from Kayla. I love all of my Shroud palettes. Really an exemplary formula, guys, but boy, troubled brand. I feel so bad for this young lady. But this is the Creepy Cute too. I love this. The formula is great. This is just mid-tones. It's all mattes, all mid-tones. Fine. Good companion palette. I cannot use this by itself at all. It's still great. I love this formula. It is so, so good. So, so good. I just love the colors, and it really does come in handy when I want a really punchy, bright shade. But alas, this is my least favorite. Most favorite, everybody should know this by now. This palette, this was what kind of sent her kind of over the edge, I think, just because of the demand for it, A, and B, the wait time. And I think that's what was kind of the beginning of the end for this poor girl because she just got so stressed out. This is the It's Freaking Bats palette in collaboration with Batty Bean. It says Beaute Bean because I got mine when she was still Beaute Bean. This is, okay, I said about the Druid, this one is a close second. What I like about the Druid over this is the Druid has some neutrals in it, and I do like neutral / colorful palettes the most. Those are my favorite kind of palettes to get, are palettes that have neutrals in them because I like to be able to have neutral options so that I can do something that's not as loud and bold. I am 52, I still love color, but I do want to have neutrals to kind of ground some of the colors so it makes it easier for me to wear and it makes me feel not so wacky. But I'm wacky, I just am. Okay, so this is just Chef's Kiss. Is so good. Every shade in here is next level. And I love Betty Jean so much. I have Halloween as well. I love Halloween and this together. Halloween is not my favorite. Obviously this is, or Halloween would be in this video. And there you have it. Okay, so now we have 2 brands left. I know this is a lot longer video than I had planned, but Blend Bunny. I love all of my Blend Bunny palettes. There is not one that is bad. There is not, I would never get, sorry, I got cut off. Blend Money, I would never want to be without any of the palettes that I have in my collection. This year for them has been a little bit of a miss for me because I'm not really on board with some of the collaborations. Not because I don't like the collaborators, just because I prefer her curated color stories and themes, and I just haven't liked the color stories of the palettes that she's released as collabs. It's no knock on the creator or the collaborator. She did just announce that she's going in a collab with Glisten Cosmetics. It's 2 palettes that I think that can kind of stick together or something. I'm not sure what that color story is. I need to go look on Instagram. If I think about it, I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, we'll see. My least favorite is the Dollhouse. This was the first palette I got from the brand, and I love it still to this day. The shimmers in here are not as good as her newer formula of shimmer, but I cannot get enough of this. I still love it so much. More cool tones and neutrals. Not a lot of warmth in here, which is fine. I prefer cool tones to warm tones anyway. I can go either way. I mean, this is a warm look that I got on right now, but gorgeous. I love it still. Hands down, best brand. I love Blend Money. Number 1, this was hard because I have 2 that are kind of go back and forth with. Sugar and Grunge. Ooh. This is so beautiful. I've got the neutral row. I've got this neutral row. So I got like a neutral row and a cool row. I've got all of these deep shades. The shimmers in here are really, really good. She had to discontinue this because somebody wanted to, like claim grunge for themselves. I'm like, grunge was a movement. Grunge is not something that you can just copyright and like not allow other people to use. Okay, so here. This is the Sugar and Grunge palette. So good. I love it. I'm just waiting for the next Blend Bunny non-collab palette because I find, me personally, I like the ones that she's done that weren't collabs. The collabs, I've not been interested in any of them. So last brand, I'll save the best for last, okay. This is Juvia's Place, not Juvia's Place, Odin's Eye. I already talked about Juvia's Place at the beginning. Okay, so Odin's Eye is releasing their 2 new holiday palettes. Best holiday palettes they released were the first ones, the Christmas Eve and Christmas Morning or Merry Christmas palettes. Great. The following year, they released 2 more. And this one made no sense to me, and it is my least favorite. I went back and forth between this and the Norns for the bottom spot, but this is the Hey Reindeer palette. So, of the new palettes that she just released, the Rosy Bliss, or Silvery Bliss and Rosy Jingle. I didn't get the Rosy Jingle because it reminded me too much of why I didn't like this one. It was not holiday enough for me. This just doesn't scream holiday. This is like a springtime palette with a reindeer theme. Who knew? Like, I don't get it. I mean, it's pretty, but I don't really reach for this. It's so bizarre. It's such a bizarre color story. And I love the formulas, but it's just not something I want to reach for usually. So that is my bottom least favorite palette from Odin's Eye. But if you don't know by now, you're never going to know it. Odin's Eye's palette that I love more than anything, more than life itself. It's like another child, practically at this point. This, my friends, is the Giant Wolves palette. Now, you should know. If you've been here long enough, you should know. This is with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner, one of my friends here on YouTube. This was her first Legendary Diversa collab that she did with Odin's Eye. Last year when I saw her in Vegas, she teased that she was doing a collab. And at that time, I kind of knew before everybody else did that she was doing Odin's Eye collab. But here we are. This is my absolute favorite. I love this. It has been dethroned as my favorite palette in my collection. Okay, just stay tuned for the palettes of the year and stay tuned for my palette ranking of the year. But here you go. This is so good, you guys. The deep shades. 3 deep shades, 3 mid-tone shades. This I can use as a deep shade as well. The shimmers in here are great. My favorite one is actually School, which is the deep, like midnight blue shimmer. Serenity Now. Anyway, Giant Wolves is my favorite palette from Odin's Eye. Okay, this was a long video. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching all the way through. I really, really appreciate it. Leave me a bat emoji if you made it all the way to the end of this video for It's Freaking Bats and Betty Jean, aka Batty Bean here on YouTube. This is a great palette, and the bat is the emoji that you will leave me if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching it. I know it was long. I didn't anticipate that I had this many palettes to talk about, but here we are. So thank you guys for being here today. Remember, Borhe, finger hearts, I purple you. You're awesome and amazing. I love you so, so much. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, I love you just for who you are. And I think that's something that, you know, we need to have more of in this world, is loving each other for who we are, and despite all our differences and whatnot. Okay, so I'm happy that you're here. I am happy to have you please like this video and subscribe as well. Remember to love yourself, feed your soul, give yourself all the positive energy and vibes so you can overflow that cup. That cup can overflow back out into the world and give other people love and positivity, because we all need that, especially now. And I love you guys so, so much. Okay, so I'm going to say TTFN. God bless y'all, and may the force be with you as per usual, as I always say. And bye. I'll catch you in the next one. Ta-ta for now. Toodles.